Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a short little knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Kizer Klipper, which is a relatively inexpensive knife, new for 2023. I will link it right down below if you guys want to check it out. There's also a version of it that comes in aluminum and CPM 3V. This guy is micarta and 154cm. So I'll make sure all that is linked down below. You guys can check it out if you want to. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's entirely up to you. Thanks to Kizer for sending this in, and thanks to my patrons for supporting me. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this knife. It's not a huge knife. Overall length of the Klipper is coming in at about 7 1/4, blade length 3 1/4, cutting edge 3 inches. How about some size comparisons? Any custom scales you see can be found at Original Goat and others down in the description. So up against the Cold Steel 8010 and the Demco 8020.5, definitely closer to the size of the Demco 8020.5. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3? Once again, close to the smaller guy here, Spyderco Para 3. Last but not least, let's put it up against the Hogue Deca and the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue. On the smaller side, I think is the overall conclusion. How's the action? It's good. It's a Kizer. They do action pretty well. This is a front flipper only. If you don't like knives that force you to use the front flipper, you might not like this. Fortunately, they have done it really well. It's very unobtrusive. Can you top flip it? Not really. At least I can't. You're going to be fighting it. It's a good way to throw it or lose it. But front flipping it, pretty easy. The nice thing is it's not an exposed titanium frame lock, which is always a bad idea with a front flipper, especially when they're really narrow, because then it just makes it that much harder. But yeah, you can put pressure wherever you want on the other side because you're not putting pressure on the lock bar. The lock bar is underneath the scales. So wouldn't be a bad one to start with. They've really done it correctly. Access to the liner lock is plentiful. Now you're going to have the blade up at the very front. If you let it drop there, it drops right on the sharpening tool, which is great. But if you're too far back, the blade is going to come down on your fingernail, which isn't that big of a deal because the blade isn't super duper heavy. This really only affects people that are going to do this sort of one-handed manipulation, engage and disengage technique. Yeah. By technique, I mean like something that anybody can teach themselves in like 14 minutes in any random afternoon. But yeah, the action's fine as far as the front flipper goes. I always prefer that there's secondary means of deployment on these things, but there's not, so okay. They did a pretty good job. Runs on bearings, you probably could have guessed that. Carry profile. Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It's about the same thickness. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. This guy's going to be a little bit friendlier in the pocket. Overall, it's a much more compact object than either of these knives. So, pretty good. Materials. Like I said, micarta. This is my favorite looking micarta. I don't know. It's like a crosshatch sort of. I don't know. It looks vintagey and cool without looking hairy. I don't like burlap micarta because it's hairy, and that makes me feel gross inside. I don't want to carry around what looks like a melted wicker basket in my pocket. I would much prefer this. This looks cool, right? This looks like old pants, right? Maybe old pants that were cool once and then were not cool for a long time, but maybe they could be cool again. What the F am I talking about? I like it. It looks nice. It's really good. So we have micarta steel liners. This is a steel pocket clip, I checked, not titanium. And then we have 154cm for the blade, which is one of my most favorite steels of all time. Very good. And definitely not a steel that we generally see at this price point, though we are seeing it much more now in 2023. So weight, I'm going to guess this weighs like just shy of 3 ounces. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a little over. What's it going to be? Oh, I'm right. 2.75 ounces. That's pretty good. Really excellent blade to weight ratio there. Balance on this knife is going to be actually quite a ways back of the pivot because of the weight in the liners and the scales, but not bad. Overall, it feels like a lightweight, compact object that's really not going to be cumbersome in any way in the pocket. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'll get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. We're going to start here with a T8 for the pivot because that's what Kizer usually uses. I mean, let's be real. Anybody who's using less than a T8 for a pivot, what are you doing? Stop it. Don't be silly. The body screws. Unfortunately, Kizer loves T6 body screws. Most likely another T6 on top of the liner but underneath the scale, or maybe flush with the liner underneath the scale, holding in these two standoffs here. Either way, minimal hardware, and we are looking at, even though we're looking at T6, it should be easy to take apart and put back together. They do have T6 screws for the pocket clip, and look at this. It's mountable on both sides, and they managed to not make it look ugly. That's really cool. Thank you for looking out for lefties, Kizer. Very nice. As long as you have the right tools for the job, you should be good to go. Let's go ahead and measure the blade stock thickness here. Let go, you guy. All right, there we go. Sorry, there's a magnet in there. It's hanging on for dear life. Blade stock thickness it says 190 thousandths. That's 109 thousandths. No. People are like, what? What are you talking about? 109 thousandths. Definitely on the thinner side. All right, we did weight, we did carry profile, we did all that. Should we take a look real quick at the internals? Sometimes we skip this part because people can tell. It is milled out for weight reduction just a little bit. It's a pretty simple knife. Sometimes these knife reviews really don't take much, right? Because a lot of this knife you can kind of gather from how it looks, right? So I'm just here to kind of let you know how it feels and what I think having it in hand. And in hand, this knife is exactly what you would assume it should be. It's a lightweight, compact, light to medium use EDC folding knife. And it works well as that, right? Now, I kind of wish the jimping extended further. I understand that the jimping is really there so that you can get a hold of the flipper, but it does extend out enough into an area that's totally unusable when you're front flipping it, right? So why not have it keep going a little bit, right? I would have liked that. You can choke up right behind the edge. That's really nice. You can actually fully hammer grip it too if you want to. This has, I don't know what we want to call this, right? A sheep's, cliffhanger, whatever. It's fully flat ground. It's got a tiny little swedge at the top. There's a tip up there, right? We can all see it. Whether or not it's properly classified will have no bearing in the end, right? It's an EDC profile, certainly. One that's this short. This is made to be pulled out and used for simple cutting tasks. What I like, despite not being able to classify this blade shape, what I like about blade shapes like this is being able to grip the knife like this and do draw cuts, because I do that a lot, trying to shape things in a pinch, right? Instead of walking across the house to get the scissors when the kids want something cut in a certain shape because they're taping it probably to my walls or to my ceiling, right? Or somewhere that I'll find months from now. Instead of doing that, sometimes it's easier for me to just set it down on a surface I can cut on and just make a quick cut. And I do it a lot. So I really like blade shapes like this. But the nice thing here is that we still have belly, and it doesn't start out super thick and drops down to a pretty mean edge. So it'll slice and it'll poke and it'll do all those things, right? But you don't have to, try to force the draw cut with, a blade like this. I find that to be a little irritating because you're only able to use just the tip and it's not necessarily pointed down. So I like a lot of these blade shapes that sort of point down, right, in various ways. That's my favorite. They're not the most aesthetically pleasing things, but I like them for that. We have another black washed blade. If you want the non-coated one, you have to choose the non-stainless option, which is 3V. Why? Even funnier. Kizer, why are we putting 3V on a knife this small? I mean, that's cool for people who just like to collect steels. I think that's totally fine. I do that too. But why? 3V hardly makes sense on any folding knife, let alone something this small. But hey, you know what? It's $98. Knock yourself out. I'm not going to judge you. No way. It's just funny. Yes, the stainless option. We will coat it. Now, I don't know how much additional corrosion resistance this blackwash version offers, but yeah, coated stainless or non-coated non-stainless. Interesting. 154 cm, very balanced steel, very similar to VG10, I've learned over the years. Very easy to touch up. Pretty darn good edge retention, not going to lie. Pretty good toughness. Really just a good all-around steel. We don't often see it at this territory. What is this territory? This knife is $78. They are made in China, but everybody knows this by now. And if you don't know, right, if you're like, China? I heard they only make junk. Holy moly. Let me catch you up here. There's a good 15 years of stuff that you've missed. But Kizer is one of many companies that manufactures knives out of China in an incredibly premium way versus their American competition. It's essentially not possible for a lot of American companies to produce this same exact thing in completely in the United States. Now, Kershaw is doing a decent job of keeping up, and that's pretty much it. I mean it. There are other companies making knives in that territory, right? Is it completely made in the United States? Probably not. But it's, a lot of it is. They're doing a decent job. My point is, it's made in China, it's very high quality, and they're using the real deal materials, right? It's actually 154 cm. I don't know who doesn't know this by now, right? I'm talking like 7 people at this point, but yeah, it's good. Let's see here. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, it says Kizer 154 cm. And then we got, I don't mind this logo here, which was the designer's logo. I'm unfamiliar with this designer, but what I don't like is the same thing as all Kizers. A lot of knife companies that begin with K. Kizer, Concept, Kershaw, at least, I don't know, 1 or 2 more. Kunwu, Quechuo. There's a lot. But yeah, we have to put the name of it on there. We have to. I just don't think we need to. There's no lanyard thing. You could attach it to a standoff, though, and be just fine. So, lanyard people, don't worry. Left and right hand mounting positions for the pocket clip. And the pocket clip, I gotta say, is really good. This is a good pocket clip. It could have stood to be a little shorter, but you know what? It's so shallow at that bill. You just don't notice it. Good deep carry. Screws are recessed. Clip's not recessed, but who cares? The bill is shallow, rounded, spoon-like, in and out of the pocket. It's just a breeze. Really great stuff there. We have internal stop pins riding on channels carved out of either side of the steel liners. This helps to make sure that the blade is locked out and stable while maintaining incredibly smooth action, even if it does loosen up just a little bit. It's an additional point of contact, right? Blade centering is spot on. There is no pivot lash. There is no, there's no detent lash. There is a slight bit of pivot lash. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Does that really matter? No. A lot of times I use it as a way to measure, machining tolerances, but you can hear it. Not a big deal. How is it on lockout? That's much more important. Completely and totally solid. No lock stick. Pretty straightforward. It's been done before many times. This isn't necessarily a new shape or anything, but you know what? This works. If you're looking for something simple, something new, something made out of good materials, yeah, this will work. I like the overall shape of this, right? This is the type of knife that you put in your pocket, and the sort of, the honeymoon phase is very short because it's just a straightforward tool. You're going to forget any love that you feel for this knife outside of just carrying it and using it, which is fine. Some people, that's the ultimate joy that they get. There are knives out there that do that perfectly, and this one is good. I think the only downside for a lot of people is the fact that this is a front flipper only. You might not like that. I think it would have been nice to have a different means of deployment. But if you're okay with that, yeah, I would recommend this. It's a shame they couldn't get it under 75 bucks, which is purely because I classify budget knives as knives under $75. So it doesn't get the prestige of the honor of being blessed by being put in my cheap knives I like playlist. Yes. It'll go on my recommended knives playlist. Very good. I think it's fine. Nothing ultra special. The price doesn't absolutely blow me away, but it's a good knife. Yeah, it's not really a whole lot more to say here. So I won't. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.